Now today we are going to start second chapter, that is solutions. This chapter is from physical chemistry. Now what is solution? So solution is a homogeneous mixture of two or more chemically non-interacting substances whose composition can be varied within certain limits. Actually, in nature there are different types of mixtures: solid solid, solid liquid, liquid liquid, like that. Some mixtures are perfectly heterogeneous. It means when sand is mixed with, for example, sugar, it is a heterogeneous mixture, it is not a solution. Or sometimes, suppose kerosene, it is mixed with water, or petrol is mixed with water. Petrol or kerosene, it is immiscible with water, it is not a solution. So solution must be homogeneous. So we can't distinguish two phases. Okay, visibly two phases cannot be distinguished. Such a mixture, it is called as homogeneous mixture, and the solution is a homogeneous mixture of two or more chemically non-interacting substances. So these substances or components must be chemically non-reactive. If they are reacting with each other, then we will not get a solution. So next important point is solution is formed by solvent and solute, and solute may be one or more than one, it may be 2, 3, like that. And the larger component of solution, it is called as solvent, and smaller component of solution, it is called as solute. We'll take example of sodium chloride in water. Sodium chloride is a common salt. When common salt, 1 gram of common salt is added in 1 liter water, so quantity of water is more and quantity of sodium chloride is less, and therefore here sodium chloride is a solute and water is a solvent, because water is a larger component and NaCl is a smaller component, so its quantity is less. So depending upon number of components of solution, there are different types of solutions, that is binary, ternary, etc. When solution contains two components, it is called as binary solution. For example, when there is a sugar added in water, sugar is freely soluble in water, and therefore there are two components, one is sugar which is a solute and other is a water which is a solvent, and resulting solution is a binary solution. Whereas ternary solution contains three components. For example, sugar and sodium chloride, that is common salt, 1 gram each added in 1 liter water. Now there will be three components in the solution. One is a water which is larger component, that is a solvent. Sodium chloride and sugar, their quantities are less, and therefore both of these are solutes. And as solution contains three components, it is a ternary solution. So mixture of sugar, sodium chloride and water, mixture of these three components, it is a ternary solution. Out of various solutions, binary solutions are very common. Actually in nature there are many solutions which contain more than three components also. Seawater contain several components. For example, seawater contain dissolved salts like sodium chloride, calcium sulfate, magnesium sulfate. Okay, there are several salts and several other components soluble in water. So seawater, it is a polycomponent solution. Okay, so out of various solutions, binary solution, it is a very common solution which contain two components, one is solute and other is solvent. Now again, one more thing is a solution in which water is used as a solvent, it is called as aqueous solution. Aqueous solution. Now, depending upon physical state of the components, that is solute and solvent, there are 9 types of solutions. What is the physical state of solute and physical state of solvent? Based on this fact, there are 9 types of solutions, like solid in liquid, solid in solid, solid in gas. Now here in these 3 cases, solvents are different, that is liquid, solid and gas, and these 3 solvents, when we dissolve solid solute, then resulting solutions are solid liquid, solid solid and solid gas. Example of solid in liquid type of solution is benzoic acid in benzene. Benzoic acid is a solid and benzene is a liquid, and resulting solution is a solid in liquid type of solution. Seawater, it is also solid in liquid type of solution, because we'll take example of sodium chloride in water. Actually seawater is a saline water. There is a sodium chloride which is actually solid dissolved in water, and therefore seawater is considered as a solid in liquid type of solution. But in fact it is not a binary solution. There are several components, as I said earlier. Another example of binary solid in liquid type of solution is sugar in water. So sugar is a solid component which is a solute, and water is a solvent which is liquid. Examples of solid in solid type of solution. So here solute as well as solvent both exist in the solid state. Examples: metal alloys, for example brass, bronze. In case of brass alloy, there is a mixture of copper and zinc. In bronze, there is a mixture of copper and tin. So actually these metal alloys, it is example of solid in solid type of solution. Third type is solid in gas. Here solute is a solid and solvent is a gas. Example: iodine vapors or iodine in air. Here iodine, it is a solid, and air, of course, it is a gas. And so iodine vapor, it is a solid in gas type of solution. Now fourth type, liquid in liquid. Example of this is ethanol. Actually ethanol in water. So ethanol, when added in water, we get a homogeneous mixture, and both, that is solute as well as solvent, exist in liquid state, and therefore this is a liquid type of solution. So gasoline means petrol. When dissolved in suitable solvent like chloroform, toluene, benzene, then that becomes a liquid type of solution. Again, basically petrol or gasoline, it contain different liquid state hydrocarbons, lower hydrocarbons like methane, propane, butane or hexane, like that. So there are 2, 3 or more than that liquid hydrocarbon, mixture of liquid hydrocarbons, and therefore gasoline itself, it is a liquid type of solution. Another type is liquid in solid. Examples: amalgams of mercury with metals, as mercury in silver, for example mercury in silver. So you know mercury, it is in liquid state and silver is a solid, and therefore this is liquid in solid type of solution. Here mercury, it is a smaller component, it present to the less extent, and silver is a larger component of the solution, and therefore solid act as a solvent. Next type is liquid in gas type of solution. For example chloroform in air or nitrogen. So here chloroform is a smaller component and nitrogen or air is a larger component, and it is a gaseous, and therefore chloroform vapors or chloroform in air or nitrogen, it is a liquid in gas type of solution. Next type is gas in liquid type of solution. Here gas is a smaller component, that is solute, and liquid is a larger component, that is solvent. Well known example is carbonated drinks or carbonated water. In carbonated water, carbon dioxide is dissolved in water. So carbon dioxide is a smaller component, which is a gas, and water is a larger component, which is a solvent. Another example, oxygen dissolved in water. So this is also gas in liquid type of solution. Next type is gas in solid type of solution. So example is adsorption of gas on the surface of solid. For example, adsorption of hydrogen on the surface of palladium. So this system, it becomes gas in solid type of system. Then gas in gas type of mixture or gas in gas type of solution, both the components solute as well as solvent, both are gases. Well known example is air. So air is a mixture of homogeneous mixture of several components, that is oxygen, nitrogen, argon, carbon dioxide, and many more gases, and therefore air, it is a gas in gas type of solvent. Actually the larger component of air, that is nitrogen, it is a solvent, and all other components, oxygen, carbon dioxide, these are solutes. So air is a gas in gas type of solution. So in this way, on the basis of physical state of solute and solvent, these are the 9 types of solutions. For competitive exam, just to remember example of each type. So question may be asked, objective type question may be asked on this table. Now next important point, that is capacity of solution to dissolve solute. Now remember, when solute is added in suitable solvent, first of all, solute slowly undergoes dissolution and enter into the solution or resulting mixture, that is solute plus solvent, resulting homogeneous mixture, it is called as solution. So in the beginning, rate of dissolution will be very high, and as soon as solute dissolve in solvent to give the solution, after some time solute may have a tendency to escape out of solution and get recrystallized. So by crystallization, there is again formation of solute, but this tendency in the beginning, this crystallization tendency was very negligible and dissolution tendency will be very high. So initially rate of dissolution is faster than crystallization, but after some time equilibrium is reached, that is rate of dissolution and rate of crystallization are equal, and the resulting solution, it is called as saturated solution. That is quantity of solute entering into the solution, that will be exactly equal to the quantity of solute escaping out of solution and to form the solute again. Both the rates are equal, that is rate of dissolution and rate of crystallization are equal. That solution, it is called as saturated solution. This saturated solution contains maximum amount of solute dissolved in given amount of solvent at a given temperature. And in other words, the saturated solution contain maximum amount of solute at a specific temperature, whereas a solution containing greater than equilibrium amount of solute, it is called as supersaturated solution. Supersaturated solution always contain greater quantity of solute than that in saturated solution. So these two terms are very important. What is the meaning of saturated solution and supersaturated solution? Now what is solubility? The maximum amount of solute that dissolves per unit volume of saturated solution at a specific temperature, it is called as solubility. The maximum amount of solute that dissolves per unit volume means maybe 1 liter or any unit, 1 liter or 1 cubic centimeter or 1 cubic meter, like that. But basically in majority cases 1 decimeter cube or 1 liter volume is considered as a unit volume. So the maximum amount of solute that dissolves in per unit volume of saturated solution at a specific temperature, it is called as solubility. Most important thing is, again, solubility changes with temperature. It means it is different for different temperatures, and it is measured in mole per decimeter cube or gram per 100 cubic centimeter. Now 3 factors affect on the solubility. One is nature of solute and solvent, effect of temperature, and effect of pressure. So these are the 3 factors which are affecting on the solubility. So first factor is nature of solute and solvent. So 2 types of substances are there, polar substance and non-polar substance. Basically, polar substance or polar solute dissolves in polar solvent, and non-polar solute dissolves in non-polar solvent. It means like dissolves like. So this is the rule of dissolution. Like dissolves like. Polar substance dissolves in polar solvent. Non-polar solute dissolves in non-polar solvents. For example, sodium chloride dissolves in water. So here sodium chloride is a polar substance, and water is also polar substance, and therefore sodium chloride is soluble in water. Similarly, sugar dissolves in water. Both are polar substances. Sugar as well as water, they are polar. Another example, cholesterol dissolves in benzene. Here cholesterol, it is organic compound. It is non-polar substance. Dissolves in benzene. When you try to dissolve cholesterol in water, so it will be insoluble in water, because cholesterol is a non-polar, water is a polar. Cholesterol is insoluble in water, but cholesterol is soluble in benzene. Similarly, naphthalene is soluble in benzene. Both are non-polar substances, and therefore the nature of solute and solvent affects the solubility, and like dissolves like. Another factor, effect of temperature on solubility. Actually, temperature causes the solubility of solute in solvent. 2 types of thermal effects are there, endothermic and exothermic. So in first case, when solid dissolves in water by endothermic process, that is at the time of dissolution, when there is a absorption of heat need to be supplied to the solution in order to dissolve solute into the solvent. Such a process is called as endothermic process. So when solid dissolves in water by endothermic process, its solubility increases with increase in temperature. It means any particular solute, when require heat for dissolution in solvent, such a dissolution process, it is favored by high temperature. So with increase in temperature, solubility of solid in solvent increases. For example, KCl, KBr, KNO3. In these solids, solubility increases with increase in temperature. Now look at this diagram or graph. Here solubility of solute plotted versus temperature. For this KNO3, You can see here, as the temperature increases, its solubility increases and it reaches to maximum value at 100 degrees centigrade. Similarly, for sodium nitrate, solubility increases with increase in temperature. Same is for sodium bromide. Then for potassium bromide, for potassium chloride, slight there is a increase in solubility with increase in temperature. So for these solids, that is KNO3, NaNO3, then KBr, KCl, NaCl, solubility increases with increase in temperature. Now, when solid dissolves in water by exothermic process, its solubility decreases with increase in temperature. What it means? Some solids, when dissolve in solvent like water, there is a evolution of heat, and such a dissolution process, it is favored by low temperature, by Le-Chatelier's principle. Examples of such a type of solids are sodium sulfate, lithium sulfate, etc. So sodium sulfate is the most common example. Now here in this graph you can see, for sodium sulfate, solubility in water decreases as the temperature increases, and therefore its solubility is favored by low temperature. It means at, for example, at 40 degrees centigrade its solubility is higher, and at 100 degrees centigrade its solubility is lower. Okay, so there are two types of solids. Some solids dissolve in solvent and their solubility increases with increase in temperature, whereas some solids dissolve in water and their solubility decreases with increase in temperature. Basically, solubility of gas in water decreases with increase in temperature. Now third factor, effect of pressure on solubility. Basically, pressure has no effect on the solubility of solids and liquids because solids and liquids are incompressible. It means there is no effect of pressure on the volume of solids and liquids, and therefore this parameter, that is pressure, has no effect on the solubility of solids and liquids. But solubility of gas in liquid increases with increase in pressure. So this pressure parameter plays important role in the solubility of gas, and solubility of gas, basically solubility of gas in liquid increases with increase in pressure. And the relationship between solubility of gas in liquid and pressure, it is given by one important law, that is Henry's law. Now what is the Henry's law? According to Henry's law, the solubility of gas in liquid, it is directly proportional to pressure of the gas over the solution. So according to Henry's law, solubility S, it is directly proportional to pressure of the gas, that is capital P, and therefore solubility of a gas, it is equal to KH, where KH is a proportionality constant known as Henry's constant, into pressure, that is P. Actually this pressure, it is in atmosphere or bar. So S is a solubility of gas, it is measured in mole per decimeter cube. Capital P, it is a pressure measured in atmosphere or bar, and KH is a proportionality constant or Henry's constant. Its unit is mole per decimeter cube per atmosphere. Again, important thing is, when there is a 1 atmospheric pressure, when this capital P, when it is equal to 1, then S is equal to KH. From this Henry's constant KH, it is defined as it is the solubility of gas in liquid at 1 atmosphere or 1 bar pressure. So this is what is Henry's law. Very simple statement. Solubility of gas in liquid, it is directly proportional to pressure of the gas over the solution. So there are few exceptions to the Henry's law. Example, ammonia and carbon dioxide gases have higher solubilities than the expected by Henry's law. This is because of reactivity of these gases with water. When ammonia is added in water, it forms ammonium hydroxide, and therefore its solubility is more than the expected as per Henry's law. Similarly, when carbon dioxide is passed through water, it forms carbonic acid, H2CO3, and therefore solubility of carbon dioxide in water is more than the expected as per Henry's law. So these are the two exceptions, ammonia and carbon dioxide. Now next point, that is what is vapor pressure. Now here you consider one vessel containing liquid or solution. Now when this liquid is kept for some time, some of the liquid molecules escape from liquid state to vapor state by evaporation. In this way, concentration of vapor molecules in this empty space slowly increases. At the same time, in vapor state, molecules may collide with each other, and during their collisions, some of the vapor molecules, they return back from vapor state to liquid state. That process is called as condensation. So after some time, condensation process starts, and rate of condensation will slowly increase as the concentration of vapor molecules increases. Now these two processes, that is evaporation and condensation, these two processes will go on, and one stage comes at which rate of evaporation, it is exactly equal to rate of condensation. In other words, after some time, the number of molecules escaping from liquid state to vapor state, that is exactly equal to number of molecules returning back from vapor state to liquid state. That stage or state of a liquid, it is called as dynamic equilibrium. Dynamic equilibrium. And at dynamic equilibrium, the concentration of vapor molecules, it is fixed. It means as number of molecules entering into the vapor phase is same as the number of molecules returning back from vapor to liquid state. As this number is same, the concentration of vapor molecules at dynamic equilibrium, it is constant. So here at a dynamic equilibrium, the pressure exerted by vapor molecules on the surface of liquid, it is called as vapor pressure. So the pressure exerted by vapor molecules of that particular substance at dynamic equilibrium, it is called as vapor pressure. And dynamic equilibrium, already I explained. The dynamic equilibrium means the equilibrium or state of particular solution where rate of evaporation is equal to rate of condensation. Again, this vapor pressure of liquid, it is measured by using manometer. So this is the manometer tube. So when liquid is placed in this container or vessel, in the beginning, so level of mercury, so this black colored area, this shows the level of mercury. So in the beginning, level of mercury will be same, that is equal. But as soon as rate of evaporation increases, slowly the level, there will be difference in the level of mercury in 2 arms, and this difference, it is nothing but the vapor pressure. So slowly this vapor pressure increases, and at dynamic equilibrium it gets fixed that is the vapor pressure.